Daniel Reyes grabbed the security guard's arm and shoved him backward. "Don't touch her!" His voice echoed through the silent ballroom. 500 wealthy guests stared at the disabled janitor standing over a screaming child who wasn't his. The girl's mother, Victoria Harrison, CEO of a billion-dollar pharmaceutical empire, stood frozen tears streaming down her face. Her daughter Lily had collapsed on the marble floor, hitting her head against the wall, and nobody knew what to do. Nobody except this limping maintenance worker with a prosthetic leg and calloused hands. He knelt down. And he did something that shocked everyone. Subscribe to my channel and follow this story to the end. Comment below what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Daniel Reyes pushed his maintenance cart down the service corridor, his prosthetic leg clicking against the concrete floor with each step. The socket was rubbing wrong tonight. It always did when the weather changed. 5 years since the accident, and his body still hadn't fully accepted the metal and plastic that replaced what he'd lost. But he kept walking. He always kept walking. "Reyes, you're late." His supervisor, a thick-necked man named Patterson, blocked the hallway, arms crossed, face red. "Sorry, my son's bus was delayed." "I don't care about your son. I care about the Harrison Foundation Gala. 500 guests. Every floor needs to shine. You understand?" Daniel nodded. He'd learned long ago that arguing accomplished nothing. Men like Patterson didn't see men like Daniel. They saw uniforms. They saw problems. They saw invisible people who existed only to clean up messes. "It won't happen again." Patterson grunted. "It better not. One more incident, Reyes. One more, and you're done." Daniel watched him walk away. One more incident. That phrase had followed him for 5 years. One more late payment, and he'd lose the apartment. One more missed therapy session, and Ethan's school would call child services. One more bad day, and everything would collapse. He gripped his cart and pushed forward. The service elevator opened onto a different world. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, women in gowns that cost more than Daniel's annual salary, men in suits discussing stock portfolios and vacation homes, champagne flowing, laughter echoing. Daniel moved along the edges, staying invisible. That was the job. Be seen when needed, disappear when not. He'd perfected this skill over the years. The wealthy didn't want to acknowledge the people who cleaned their toilets and mopped their floors. It made them uncomfortable. So Daniel became a ghost. He worked his way toward the east wing where a water spill had been reported near the auction displays. His leg ached with each step, but he kept his pace steady. Limping too obviously made people stare. Staring led to questions. Questions led to pity. Daniel didn't want pity. He wanted to finish his shift, pick up Ethan from Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, and go home. That was when he heard it. A scream. Not a surprised scream or an excited scream. This was something different. Something raw and desperate and terrified. Daniel knew that sound. He'd heard it 1,000 times. "Lily, Lily, please." Victoria Harrison knelt on the marble floor, her designer gown pooling around her like spilled ink. Her daughter Lily, 8 years old, white dress, dark curly hair, had collapsed against the wall. Her hands covered her ears. Her eyes were squeezed shut. Her entire body rocked back and forth, back and forth. "Someone help!" Victoria's voice cracked. "Please, someone help my daughter." The guests had formed a circle around them. Not to help, to watch. Like spectators at an accident scene, they kept their distance while filming on their phones. Daniel stopped at the edge of the crowd. He recognized what was happening. The sensory overload. The desperate attempt to block out a world that had become too loud, too bright, too overwhelming. Ethan had done the same thing at that age. In grocery stores, in schools, in any place where the noise became too much. "Ma'am, you need to step back." A security guard, young, muscular, clueless, reached for Lily's arm. "No." Victoria pushed herself between them. "Don't touch her. You don't understand." "Ma'am, we need to remove the child. She's disrupting the event." "She's not disrupting anything. She's having a tantrum." A voice cut through the crowd. cold, dismissive. Is that what we're calling it now? Daniel watched a silver-haired man step forward. Expensive suit, Rolex watch, the kind of arrogance that came from decades of never being told no. Charles Whitmore. Daniel recognized him from the company newsletters. Board member, major investor, the kind of man who measured human worth in stock prices. Charles, not now. Victoria's voice trembled with barely controlled rage. Not now, Victoria, there are cameras everywhere, investors, partners, and your daughter is having a public meltdown. She's not having a meltdown, she's embarrassing you, embarrassing this foundation. Whitmore's lip curled. I warned the board about this, told them a single mother with a special needs child couldn't handle the pressure. Victoria stood up slowly. Her hands shook. Her eyes burned. My daughter is autistic, Charles. Not broken, not embarrassing, autistic. The distinction doesn't matter to our investors. It matters to me. Lily's screaming intensified. She'd started hitting her head against the wall, not hard enough to injure, but rhythmic, repetitive. A coping mechanism that looked violent to people who didn't understand. The security guard reached for her again, and Daniel moved. He didn't think about it, didn't calculate the consequences, didn't consider that he was a maintenance worker interfering with a CEO's family crisis in front of 500 wealthy witnesses. He just moved. His hand caught the security guard's wrist. Firm. Not aggressive, but immovable. Don't touch her. The guard's eyes widened. Who the hell are you? Someone who knows what he's doing. Step back. Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are. I think I'm the only person in this room who understands what's happening to that child. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. The voice he used when Ethan was spiraling. And if you grab her arm right now, you're going to make everything worse. The guard looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at Daniel. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. The understanding of shared pain. Let him try, Victoria whispered. Ma'am, he's a janitor. I said let him try. The guard stepped back. The crowd shifted. 500 pairs of eyes focused on the disabled maintenance worker in worn shoes and a gray uniform. Daniel didn't notice any of them. He only saw Lily. He approached slowly. Not directly, that would be threatening. Instead, he moved to her peripheral vision, positioning himself at an angle where she could see him without feeling cornered. Then he sat down. His prosthetic leg protested as he lowered himself to the marble floor. The socket dug into his residual limb. Pain shot up his thigh. He ignored it. He began rocking. Left, right, left, right. The same rhythm as Lily. The exact same speed, the exact same motion. Mirroring. The first thing he'd learned with Ethan. Match their rhythm. Enter their world. Don't force them into yours. Lily's screaming faltered. Just for a moment. Just enough. She'd noticed him. Daniel kept rocking. Didn't speak. Didn't make eye contact. Just continued the motion, patient and steady, like a metronome marking time. 30 seconds passed. Lily's movement slowed. Just slightly. Testing. Uncertain. Daniel slowed his movements to match. What is he doing? Someone whispered in the crowd. Is he? Yes, rocking with her. Daniel raised one hand, palm out. He began moving it in a slow wave pattern, up, down, smooth and predictable. A visual anchor, something for her overwhelmed mind to focus on. Lily's eyes tracked his hand. Her breathing changed, still rapid, but no longer ragged. You're okay. Daniel's voice was barely above a whisper. Not commanding, not demanding, just present. The noise is loud, the lights are bright, but you're okay. Lily's rocking slowed further. I know it's scary. I know everything feels like too much, but you're okay. You're safe. Victoria watched from 5 feet away, her hand pressed against her mouth, tears streaming freely now. In 8 years of doctors and therapists and specialists, she'd never seen anyone reach Lily during a meltdown. Not like this. Daniel extended his other hand, palm up, an invitation. "My son does this too," he said softly. "His name is Ethan. He's 10. When the world gets too loud, he likes to hold my hand. Just hold it. Nice and gentle." Lily's rocking had almost stopped. "You don't have to take it. It's just here if you want it." The ballroom held its breath. Charles Whitmore snorted. "This is ridiculous. Security, remove this man." "Shut up, Charles." An elderly woman stepped forward. White hair, pearl necklace, eyes sharp as broken glass. Margaret Chen, philanthropist, foundation co-founder. The only person in the room with more influence than Whitmore. "Let him work." Whitmore's face reddened. "Margaret, this is a janitor. This is a father, and right now he's doing more than any of us." The crowd fell silent again. Daniel hadn't moved. His hand remained extended, palm up, patient as stone. Lily stared at it. At the calluses, the scars, hands that worked for a living. Hands that weren't soft, or manicured, or perfect. Real hands. She reached out. Her tiny fingers touched his palm, and the world stopped. Victoria's knees buckled. She caught herself against a nearby pillar, her whole body shaking with sobs she couldn't contain. 8 years. 8 years of watching her daughter struggle. 8 years of therapists who talked about management strategies, and doctors who pushed medications, and teachers who suggested specialized facilities. 8 years of watching Lily pull away from every touch, every hug, every attempt at connection. And now, a stranger, a maintenance worker with a prosthetic leg and a worn uniform, had done what none of them could. "There you go," Daniel said softly. "That's it. You're doing so good." His fingers closed gently around Lily's hand, so carefully, like holding something precious and fragile. "You want to stand up? We can do it together, nice and slow." Lily nodded. A tiny motion almost invisible, but Daniel saw it. He rose slowly, guiding her up with him. His legs screamed in protest. He didn't care. "The music is still loud," he said. "But we can make our own quiet. Want to see?" Another tiny nod. Daniel began moving, not walking, dancing. A simple pattern, step left, step right, hand up, hand down, rhythmic, predictable, safe. Lily followed. Her movements were uncertain at first, jerky, hesitant, but Daniel adjusted his rhythm to match hers, and gradually, impossibly, they synchronized. A disabled janitor and a CEO's autistic daughter dancing in the middle of a charity gala. The orchestra had stopped playing. No one had told them to stop. They simply understood that whatever music existed now came from a different place. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "Look at her. She's smiling." Victoria saw it too. Lily's face had transformed. The terror was gone. The desperation was gone. In their place was something Victoria hadn't seen in years. Peace. The moment lasted maybe 3 minutes, maybe a lifetime. Daniel wasn't sure. What he knew was that Lily's breathing had stabilized. Her body had relaxed. The meltdown was over. "You did great," he told her. "You're so brave. Do you know that? So brave." Lily looked up at him. For the first time, she made direct eye contact. "More dance." Her voice was small, barely audible, but it was there. "Anytime you want," Daniel said. "Anytime." Victoria approached, slowly, afraid to break the spell. "Lily, sweetheart." Lily turned, saw her mother, and did something she hadn't done during a meltdown in 4 years. She reached for her. Victoria dropped to her knees and pulled her daughter into her arms, crying so hard her whole body shook. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I should have known." "It's okay, Mommy." Lily's voice was muffled against Victoria's shoulder. "The dancing man helped." Victoria looked up at Daniel through her tears. "Who are you?" Before he could answer, a commotion erupted near the service entrance. "Sir, you can't be in here. That's my dad." Daniel's blood went cold. "Ethan." His son burst through the crowd, dodging security guards with the agility of a child who'd spent years learning to navigate unpredictable spaces. He was still wearing his school clothes, wrinkled polo shirt, grass-stained khakis. His therapy session must have ended early. "Dad!" Ethan skidded to a stop beside Daniel, slightly out of breath. "Mrs. Rodriguez said you were working the big party, and I saw the thing online, and I knew you needed me." "Ethan, how did you get here?" "Bus, then I walked. It's only 12 blocks. 12 blocks, alone at night. I'm 10, Dad. I can handle 12 blocks. Daniel wanted to scold him, wanted to explain all the reasons a 10-year-old shouldn't wander the city alone after dark. But the words caught in his throat because Ethan had already noticed Lily, and Lily had noticed him. They stared at each other. Two children who understood things most adults couldn't comprehend. Two minds that processed the world differently, desperately, beautifully. Ethan walked forward, slow, deliberate. He stopped 3 feet away from Lily and held up his hand, palm out. Lily raised hers to match. They touched palms, a silent greeting, a recognition. "I'm Ethan." "I'm Lily. My dad does the dancing thing with me too." "It's nice?" "Yeah." Ethan nodded. "It is." Victoria watched, speechless. Margaret Chen pressed a handkerchief to her eyes. Even some of the socialites who'd been filming moments ago had lowered their phones, too moved to continue. Only Charles Whitmore remained unmoved. "This is absurd." He stepped forward, his patience clearly exhausted. "Victoria, the board will hear about this. A janitor's son wandering into our event, your daughter's episode, broadcast to the world." "The only thing broadcast tonight," Margaret interrupted, "is compassion, something you clearly know nothing about." "Margaret." "I said shut up, Charles. You can't. I can do whatever I want. I own 32% of this foundation. You own 4. She turned to Victoria. "Take your daughter home. Get some rest. We'll handle the board." Victoria nodded, still clutching Lily. "Thank you, Margaret." Then she looked at Daniel. "Wait for me, please. I need to talk to you." Daniel glanced at Ethan, at Lily, at the sea of faces still watching them. "I'll be in the service corridor." Patterson was waiting for him when he arrived. "You're fired." Daniel had expected it. That didn't make it hurt less. "I was helping a child." "You were disrupting a major event. You put your hands on a security guard. You sat on the floor in the middle of 500 guests. You made a scene." "The child was in distress." "The child is the CEO's daughter, not your problem." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Every child in distress is my problem." "Not anymore, it isn't. Turn in your badge and uniform. You have 15 minutes to clear out your locker." Patterson walked away without looking back. Daniel stood alone in the corridor, the weight of what had just happened settling on his shoulders. Fired, no job, no income, rent due in 2 weeks, Ethan's therapy bills piling up. One more incident. This was the incident. "Mr. Reyes." He turned. Victoria Harrison stood at the end of the hallway, Lily holding her hand. Behind them, Ethan waited, shifting nervously from foot to foot. "I heard what that man said to you." Victoria's voice was steady now, controlled. "He fired you." "Yes, ma'am." "For helping my daughter." "That seems to be the interpretation." Victoria walked closer. Her eyes were red from crying, but something had changed in them. A clarity, a determination. "What's your name? Your full name?" "Daniel Reyes, ma'am." "Daniel." She said it like she was memorizing it. "Daniel, I don't know how you did what you did tonight. I don't know how you reached her when no one else could. But I know this, you're not walking out of here without a conversation. Mrs. Harrison? Victoria, please." She glanced back at Lily, who was watching Daniel with an expression of quiet trust. "My daughter hasn't let anyone touch her during a meltdown in 4 years. Tonight she held your hand. She danced with you. She asked for more." Daniel didn't know what to say. "I have questions," Victoria continued. "So many questions. But right now, I only have one that matters." She took a breath. "Will you have coffee with me tomorrow? Not as a CEO and a janitor. As two parents who understand something most people don't." Daniel looked at his son. Ethan nodded encouragingly. He looked at Lily. She smiled, small, uncertain, but real. He looked at Victoria, saw the exhaustion, the hope, the desperation of a mother who had been fighting alone for too long. "One condition. Name it." "Ethan comes too. He's part of this now." Victoria smiled. It was the first genuine smile he'd seen from her all night. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Chom. The night air hit Daniel's face as he stepped outside. Cold. Clean. Real. Ethan walked beside him, hand brushing against Daniel's prosthetic leg the way he always did when he needed grounding. "Dad." "Yeah, buddy." "You got fired." "I did." "Are we gonna be okay?" Daniel stopped walking. He knelt down carefully because the socket was really biting now and looked his son in the eyes. "I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know one thing for sure." "What?" "We're together, and as long as we're together, we can figure anything out." Ethan nodded slowly. "That lady, the mom, she looked at you different." "Different how?" "Like she saw you." Ethan paused. "Most people don't see you, Dad. They look right through you. But she saw you." Daniel felt something shift in his chest, something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope. "Yeah, buddy. Maybe she did." They walked together into the darkness, a father and son who had nothing except each other. And somehow, that felt like enough. Victoria stood at her penthouse window watching the city lights blur through her tears. Lily was asleep. Finally. Peacefully. For the first time in months, she hadn't needed her weighted blanket or her white noise machine or 3 hours of failed attempts at comfort. She'd fallen asleep holding Victoria's hand, whispering about the dancing man with the kind leg. The kind leg. That's what Lily called his prosthetic. Not the fake leg, or the robot leg, or the scary leg. The kind leg. Because the man who wore it was kind. Victoria pressed her forehead against the cold glass. For 8 years, she'd surrounded herself with specialists, experts, people with degrees and certifications and treatment plans. She'd spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on therapies and interventions and assessments, and a maintenance worker earning minimum wage had done more in 3 minutes than all of them combined. Her phone buzzed. "Charles Whitmore, emergency board meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. We need to discuss tonight's incident." Victoria stared at the message. Incident. That's what he called it. Her daughter's moment of terror. A stranger's act of compassion. An incident to be managed, controlled, spun. She typed her reply. "I'll be there. And Charles, prepare yourself. Things are about to change." She didn't know exactly what she meant by that, but standing at the window, watching the lights of a city that never slept, Victoria Harrison felt something she hadn't felt in years. Ready. Ready to fight. Ready to change. Ready to finally see the people she'd been looking through her entire life. Across the city, in a 2-bedroom apartment that smelled like old carpet and hope, Daniel tucked his son into bed. "Dad." "Yeah." "That girl Lily. She's like me." "I know. I want to see her again." Daniel brushed the hair from Ethan's forehead. "We'll see what happens." Promise. Daniel hesitated. He'd learned long ago not to make promises he couldn't keep. The world had a way of breaking them for him. But looking at his son's hopeful face, he found himself saying the words anyway. I promise. Ethan smiled, closed his eyes. Within minutes, his breathing slowed. Daniel sat in the darkness for a long time, rubbing his aching leg, thinking about everything he'd lost, and everything he might have found. Tomorrow would bring questions, challenges, uncertainty. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, Daniel Reyes felt seen. And that made all the difference. The coffee shop on Maple Street opened at 6 in the morning. Daniel arrived at 5:45. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lily's face, the terror transforming into trust. He saw Victoria's tears. He saw the crowd watching him like he was either a hero or a fool. He still didn't know which one he was. Ethan had insisted on wearing his best shirt, a blue polo with only one small stain on the collar. He'd combed his hair 3 times, which was 3 times more than usual. Do I look okay, Dad? You look perfect, buddy. What if she doesn't like me? Lily. No, her mom. Ethan fidgeted with his sleeve. Rich people don't usually like us. Daniel's chest tightened. His son was 10 years old. He shouldn't know how the world worked yet. But he did, because life had taught him early and hard. Mrs. Harrison is different. How do you know? I don't, not for sure. Daniel knelt down, meeting Ethan's eyes. But I know she loves her daughter. And anyone who loves their kid that much can't be all bad. The door opened. Victoria walked in, and everything about her was different from last night. No gown, no diamonds. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup to hide the dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted. She looked real. Lily held her hand, wearing a yellow sundress and clutching a stuffed elephant. You came, Victoria said, like she hadn't quite believed he would. I said I would. People say a lot of things. I don't. They stood there for a moment, 2 strangers connected by something neither fully understood. Then Ethan stepped forward. Hi, Lily. Lily looked at him, then at her elephant, then back at him. This is Eleanor. That's a good name for an elephant. She doesn't like loud noises either. Neither do I. Ethan held up his hand, palm out, the same greeting from last night. Want to sit together? Lily glanced at her mother. Victoria nodded. Lily touched her palm to Ethan's. Okay. The 2 children walked to a corner booth, already lost in their own world. Victoria watched them go, her eyes glistening. She never does that. She never just connects with someone. Ethan's the same way. But sometimes when 2 people speak the same language, they find each other. Victoria finished his sentence. Yeah, they do. They ordered coffee. Black for Daniel. Latte for Victoria. The conversation started slow, careful, like 2 people testing ice on a frozen lake. Tell me about him, Victoria said. About Ethan. What do you want to know? Everything. How you knew what to do last night. How you learned to reach him. Daniel wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. The warmth seeped into his scarred fingers. It wasn't always like this. When Ethan was first diagnosed, I had no idea what I was doing. None. How old was he? 3. He stopped talking, stopped making eye contact, started having these episodes. Screaming, hitting himself. The doctors said it was autism. My wife... He stopped, swallowed. My wife wanted to try every treatment, every therapy. She was convinced we could fix him. Fix him? That's how she saw it. Something was broken. We needed to repair it. Daniel shook his head. I thought the same thing at first. We spent 2 years trying to make Ethan normal. 2 years of forcing him into programs that didn't work. 2 years of watching him suffer because we couldn't accept who he was. Victoria's hands trembled around her cup. What changed? The accident. The word hung between them. 5 years ago, we were driving home from another failed therapy session. Ethan was in the back seat screaming, melting down. Sarah, my wife, she turned around to try to calm him. Took her eyes off the road for 3 seconds. Victoria's breath caught. Drunk driver, ran a red light, hit us on the passenger side. Daniel's voice stayed flat, controlled. The only way he could tell this story without breaking. Sarah died on impact. My leg was crushed. Ethan? Was he hurt? Not a scratch, not physically. Daniel stared at his coffee. But he was there. He saw everything. He was trapped in that car with his mother's body for 40 minutes before they could cut us out. Oh God. For 6 months after he didn't speak, not a word. The doctors said he might never talk again. Said the trauma was too severe. But he talks now. He does. Daniel looked across the shop at his son, who was showing Lily something on his hands, probably the finger patterns they used to communicate. It took a year. A year of sitting with him in silence. A year of matching his rhythms, entering his world, instead of dragging him into mine. A year of learning that he wasn't broken. He was just different. Victoria wiped her eyes. The mirroring technique, the dancing. You developed all of that out of desperation. Nothing else worked. So I started watching him. Really watching. I noticed that when he was overwhelmed, he rocked. When I rocked with him, he calmed down faster. I noticed he responded to visual patterns more than words. So I started using hand movements, rhythms, anything predictable that he could focus on. And it worked. Eventually, not every time. Not perfectly, but enough. Daniel finally looked at her. Last night when I saw Lily, I recognized everything. The overstimulation, the desperate attempt to escape, the way everyone was making it worse by crowding closer and talking louder. I was making it worse. You were scared. Fear makes us do stupid things. I'm her mother. I should know better. You know what I learned in 5 years of doing this alone? Daniel leaned forward. There's no should. Every day is different. Every meltdown is different. Some days I know exactly what Ethan needs. Other days I'm completely lost. The guilt doesn't help. Trust me, I've tried. Victoria laughed. Broken. Relieved. I've been carrying guilt for 8 years. I don't know how to put it down. You don't put it down. You just learn to carry it differently. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her expression hardened. Problem. Board meeting. 1 hour. She took a breath. Charles Whitmore called an emergency session. He wants to discuss my fitness for leadership. Because of last night? Because he's been looking for an excuse to remove me for 3 years. Last night gave him ammunition. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. That's ridiculous. Your daughter had a difficult moment. That doesn't affect your ability to run a company. In Charles's world, everything is connected. Personal weakness means professional weakness. If I can't control my family, how can I control a corporation? That's the most backward logic I've ever heard. Welcome to corporate America. Victoria stood up. I have to go. But Daniel, yeah. Will you be here when I get back? Where else would I go? I don't have a job anymore. She flinched. About that, I'm going to fix it. You don't have to. I'm going to fix it. Her voice left no room for argument. Patterson had no right to fire you. You saved my daughter. And even if he did have the right, I own the building. I own the company that contracts the maintenance staff. I can make one phone call and have you reinstated. I don't want charity. It's not charity, it's justice. She paused at the door. Give me 2 hours. Watch the kids, please. Daniel looked at Ethan and Lily, heads bent together over some game involving Eleanor the elephant. 2 hours. Victoria walked out. Daniel sat alone with his cold coffee and a feeling he couldn't name. The boardroom was already full when Victoria arrived. 12 chairs, 12 faces, 11 of them hostile. Charles Whitmore sat at the head of the table, even though that was her seat. A power play. The first of many, she was sure. "Victoria, good of you to join us." "It's my company, Charles. Where else would I be?" "Given last night's display, I thought perhaps you might be focused on personal matters." "My personal matters are exactly that. Personal." She didn't sit. Let them look up at her. Why was this meeting called? Concerns have been raised. By whom? Multiple board members. Name them. Silence. That's what I thought. Victoria placed her hands on the table. "Let me make something clear. My daughter is autistic. She had a sensory episode at a public event. This is not a scandal. This is not a crisis. This is life. A life that affects shareholder confidence," Whitmore countered. "Our stock dropped 2% this morning. It drops 2% every time there's a cloudy day. Market fluctuation is not a reason to question my leadership." "The video is everywhere, Victoria." "I know. I've seen it. 30 million views and counting. Comments speculating about your mental stability, your ability to handle pressure." Whitmore smiled, cold, practiced. "The optics are devastating." "The optics!" Victoria's voice dropped. "Dangerous." "My daughter was terrified. She was overwhelmed and scared, and nobody in that room knew how to help her. Nobody except a maintenance worker who'd been invisible to every single one of you for 3 years. And you're worried about optics." "We're worried about the company." "No, you're worried about your position." Victoria straightened. "I know what you've been doing, Charles. The whisper campaigns, the private meetings with investors. You've been trying to push me out since the day I took this chair." Whitmore's smile didn't waver. "Paranoid accusations won't help your case. Neither will yours." She pulled a folder from her bag. "I had my team pull the attendance records from last night. Do you know what I found interesting?" Whitmore's smile flickered. 3 of the investors who expressed concern about my leadership this morning weren't even at the gala. They were at a private dinner, hosted by you. That's at the same restaurant where you've been meeting with your contacts at Meridian Pharmaceuticals, our biggest competitor. Victoria dropped the folder on the table. "You're not trying to remove me for the good of the company, Charles. You're trying to remove me so you can sell us off piece by piece." The room went silent. Whitmore's face had gone pale. "You can't prove anything." "I don't have to prove it. I just have to make the other board members wonder." Victoria looked around the table. "Ask yourselves, whose interests is Charles really serving, the shareholders or his friends at Meridian?" Margaret Chen spoke first. "I move to table this discussion until a formal investigation can be conducted." "Seconded," another board member added. Whitmore's jaw tightened. "This is ridiculous." "All in favor." 8 hands went up. Whitmore stood up so fast, his chair fell backward. "This isn't over, Victoria." "No, it's not." She met his eyes. "But the next round is mine." He stormed out. Victoria allowed herself one breath, one moment of relief. Then Margaret approached her. "That was impressive, but Charles won't stop. He'll come back harder." "I know. You need allies, real ones, not just board votes." "What are you suggesting?" Margaret looked at her for a long moment. "That video, the maintenance worker with your daughter. Do you know why it went viral? Because people love watching other people's pain. No, because it was real." Margaret's voice softened. For 3 minutes, the internet watched a disabled janitor show more compassion than a room full of billionaires. That resonated with people. "I'm not going to exploit what happened for PR. I'm not suggesting exploitation. I'm suggesting honesty." Margaret paused. "You've spent years hiding Lily's diagnosis, protecting her, protecting yourself. But last night the secret came out anyway. Now you have a choice. You can let Charles control the narrative, or you can tell your own story. Victoria thought about Daniel, about his scarred hands and patient voice, about the way he'd explained Ethan's journey without shame or apology. I don't know if I'm ready. Nobody's ever ready. Margaret squeezed her arm. But sometimes the bravest thing a mother can do is let the world see her struggle. And her strength. Daniel was still at the coffee shop when Victoria returned. The kids had moved to the floor where they'd built an elaborate structure out of sugar packets and coffee stirrers. Lily was explaining something to Ethan with intense hand gestures. Ethan listened with complete focus. They've been like that for 2 hours, Daniel said. Haven't seen Ethan this engaged with another kid since, honestly, I can't remember when. Victoria sank into the booth across from him. She looked drained, battle-worn, but also something else. Lighter. The board meeting. Charles tried to have me removed. It didn't work. For now. For now? He'll be back. He always comes back. Victoria watched Lily laugh at something Ethan did. But I bought myself some time. What are you going to do with it? I don't know yet. She paused. Margaret Chen, the woman who defended you last night, she thinks I should go public. About Lily. About everything. Stop hiding and start owning our story. What do you think? I think it terrifies me. Victoria's voice cracked. For 8 years, I've protected Lily from judgment, from cruelty, from people like Charles who see her as a liability instead of a person. If I go public, I can't take it back. No, you can't. But hiding hasn't worked either. Everyone knows now anyway. The video made sure of that. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Please. When Ethan was first diagnosed, I did the same thing. Hid it. Made excuses when he had meltdowns in public. Told people he was just tired or going through a phase. I was so ashamed. You ashamed. More than you can imagine. I grew up in a family where men didn't show weakness, where kids were supposed to be tough and normal and fit in. Having a son who was different felt like failure, like I'd done something wrong. When did that change? After the accident, after I lost Sarah, after I almost lost Ethan too. Daniel's voice roughened. I was lying in that hospital bed with half my leg gone, and all I could think about was how much time I'd wasted. How much energy I'd spent trying to make Ethan into something he wasn't when I should have been loving him for who he was. Victoria wiped her eyes. How did you get past it? I stopped caring what other people thought. Not because I'm brave, because I was too exhausted to care anymore. He leaned forward. You want to know the truth? The moment I stopped hiding Ethan's autism was the moment everything got easier. Not because people were nicer, some were, some weren't, but because I wasn't carrying the weight of the secret anymore. And Ethan? He's happier, lighter. When I stopped being ashamed of him, he stopped being ashamed of himself. Daniel looked at the children on the floor. Kids know Victoria. They feel our fear, our embarrassment. When we pretend they're something they're not, they learn that who they are isn't good enough. Victoria's breath hitched. I never wanted Lily to feel that way. I know, but wanting isn't enough. Actions matter. What if I mess it up? What if I go public and make everything worse? You might. Probably will in some ways. Daniel shrugged. But you'll also show Lily that her mother isn't afraid to fight for her, that she's not something to be hidden, and that matters more than any PR strategy or board meeting or stock price. Victoria laughed through her tears. You're very wise for a janitor. Former janitor, remember? Right, about that. Victoria pulled out her phone. I made a call. Victoria. Not to Patterson. He's been terminated. Daniel blinked. What? He violated company policy by firing you without cause. He also has a pattern of discriminatory behavior that HR somehow missed. Until today. You fired my supervisor. I corrected an injustice. Victoria's voice was firm. But that's not why I'm telling you this. I made another call too, to our foundation's program director. I don't understand. We have funding for a new initiative, parent support services for families with neurodivergent children. We've been looking for someone to lead it, someone with real experience, someone who understands what these families are going through. Daniel's heart stopped. You're not suggesting, I'm not suggesting, I'm offering. Victoria met his eyes. I want you to build this program, Daniel. Design it. Run it. Use everything you've learned with Ethan to help other families find their way. I'm not qualified. I don't have a degree. I don't have credentials. You have something better. You have 4 years of lived experience. You have techniques that work when nothing else does. You have the ability to look at a child in crisis and know exactly what they need. Victoria leaned forward. I've spent a fortune on experts, Daniel. Not one of them accomplished in 8 years what you did in 3 minutes. That was luck. Right place, right time. It wasn't luck. I watched you. Every movement was deliberate, calculated. You knew what you were doing because you've done it 1,000 times. Daniel thought about the years of trial and error, the failures, the breakthroughs, the late nights reading every research paper he could find, the early mornings practicing techniques before Ethan woke up. I don't know if I can do this. You can, I've seen it. What about Ethan? What about our life? I can't just... Dad. Ethan was standing beside the booth, Lily right behind him. How long have you been listening? Long enough. Ethan climbed into the seat next to Daniel. You should do it. Buddy, it's complicated. No, it's not. You're good at helping people. You helped me. You helped Lily. Why wouldn't you help more kids? Because it's scary. Because what if I fail? Ethan shrugged. You always tell me that failing is how we learn. That we can't be good at something if we never try. Daniel laughed despite himself. Using my own words against me. You're good at words, Dad. I learned from the best. Lily tugged Victoria's sleeve. Can Ethan come over tomorrow? I want to show him my room. Victoria looked at Daniel. Waiting. Daniel looked at his son. At Lily. At Victoria, who was offering him something he'd never imagined possible. One condition. Victoria raised an eyebrow. You and your conditions. I designed the program my way. No corporate interference. No board approval needed for every decision. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it right. Done. And Ethan is part of it. Not officially, but he comes with me. He's the reason I know any of this. He deserves to be included. Absolutely. Daniel took a breath. Then yes. Victoria smiled. The first real smile he'd seen since the coffee shop. Welcome to Harrison Foundation, Mr. Reyes. Ethan grabbed his father's arm. Does this mean we're not going to be homeless? We were never going to be homeless, buddy. Really? Because last week you told Mrs. Rodriguez that if you lost your job, we might have to... Okay, that's enough. Daniel ruffled his son's hair. Yes, it means we're going to be okay. Lily took Ethan's hand. I knew it. Eleanor knew too. She told me your dad was special. Eleanor is very smart. She's the smartest elephant in the world. Daniel watched the 2 children, heads bent together, hands clasped. 2 kids who had been alone in their own worlds, finding each other. Victoria watched too, her eyes bright with tears. Daniel. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. I haven't done anything. You've done more than you know. She reached across the table and touched his hand. Just briefly. Just enough. You gave me hope. I'd forgotten what that felt like. Daniel looked at her hand on his, at the contrast between her manicured fingers and his calloused skin. 2 different worlds, but maybe not so different after all. Tomorrow, he said. We start tomorrow. Tomorrow. Victoria stood, gathered Lily, said their goodbyes. And as Daniel watched them leave, he felt something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Purpose. Real, terrifying, beautiful purpose. Ethan tugged his sleeve. Dad, are you crying? No, just allergies. You always say that when you're crying, because it's always true. Ethan hugged him, tight, fierce. The kind of hug that 10-year-old boys weren't supposed to give. I'm proud of you, Dad. Daniel's throat closed. I'm proud of you too, buddy. Always. They walked out of the coffee shop together, father and son, moving toward something new, something unknown, something that might just change everything. Daniel didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know if he could build a program that helped thousands of families. He didn't know if he could navigate the corporate world that Victoria lived in. But he knew one thing. He wasn't invisible anymore. And he was never going back to being unseen. Not ever again. 3 weeks into building quiet bridges, Daniel realized he was drowning. The conference room Victoria had given him was covered in papers, research studies, program outlines, budget projections, words that blurred together until they lost all meaning. You look terrible. Daniel looked up. Victoria stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. It's what you needed to hear. She walked in and set a cup in front of him. When's the last time you slept? Define sleep. More than 2 hours. In a bed. Not this chair. Daniel rubbed his eyes. Tuesday? Maybe Wednesday. It's Saturday. That explains why Ethan asked why I smelled funny. Victoria sat across from him. Daniel, you can't build a program to help families if you destroy yourself in the process. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on caffeine and stubbornness. She pushed the papers aside. Talk to me. What's the problem? Daniel stared at the chaos surrounding him. I don't know what I'm doing. You knew exactly what you were doing with Lily. That was instinct. This is... He gestured helplessly. Bureaucracy, systems, proposals that need approval from people who've never met an autistic child in their lives. Every time I write something real, someone tells me it needs to be more professional. Every time I try to explain what actually works, I get blank stares. Who's giving you blank stares? Your program coordinator, Dr. Harrison, the one with 3 degrees and 0 practical experience. Victoria's jaw tightened. Patricia Harrison, my ex-husband's sister. Your what? Long story, complicated family politics. Victoria took a breath. What did she say? That my methods are unorthodox, that mirroring techniques aren't evidence-based, that I need peer-reviewed studies to support my approach. Daniel laughed bitterly. I told her my evidence is a 10-year-old son who went from nonverbal to thriving. She said anecdotes aren't data. She said that, among other things. What other things? Daniel hesitated. Daniel, what did she say? She suggested that perhaps someone with proper credentials should lead the program. That I could serve in an advisory capacity. Basically smile for the cameras and let the real experts do the work. Victoria's face went cold. The kind of cold Daniel had seen in the boardroom when she faced Charles Whitmore. Where is she right now? Victoria, don't. Where? Her office. 3rd floor. But I don't need you to fight my battles. This isn't your battle. It's mine. Victoria stood. Patricia was installed by my ex-husband before the divorce. She's been undermining every initiative I've championed for 6 years. I've tolerated it because firing family is complicated. But this, it's not worth... You are worth it. Victoria's voice cracked. You're the first person who's ever helped Lily. The first person who didn't look at her like she was broken. And I will not let anyone push you out. She walked out before Daniel could respond. He sat alone with his cold coffee and the realization that something had shifted. Victoria Harrison didn't just believe in his program, she believed in him. That was terrifying in ways he couldn't name. Patricia Harrison's office was immaculate. Degrees on every wall, awards on every shelf. The organized perfection of someone who cared more about appearance than substance. Victoria didn't knock. Victoria. Patricia looked up from her computer, surprise flickering across her face. I wasn't expecting you. Clearly. Victoria closed the door behind her. We need to talk about Daniel Reyes. Ah, the janitor. The program director. Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course, the program director, with no degree, no certification, no relevant experience beyond raising his own child. His own autistic child, successfully, which is more than most of your certified colleagues can claim. Anecdotal evidence isn't. Stop. Victoria's voice cut like glass. I've heard your talking points. I've read your memos. I know exactly what you're doing. I'm trying to maintain professional standards. You're trying to sabotage my program. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious pattern. Victoria stepped closer. 6 years, Patricia. 6 years of watching you undermine everything I build. The youth outreach program, the community health initiative, the scholarship fund for disabled students. Every single time you've found ways to delay, diminish, or destroy. Those programs had fundamental flaws. Those programs would have helped thousands of people, but they threatened your brother's vision for this foundation, a vision that prioritizes profit over people. Patricia's mask slipped, just for a moment. Richard was a visionary. Richard was a coward who abandoned his daughter because she wasn't perfect. Victoria's voice shook with controlled rage. He walked out on Lily when she was 4 years old, told me she was defective, said he couldn't be associated with weakness. That's not... I was there, Patricia. I heard every word, and I've spent 8 years cleaning up the damage he caused. To Lily, to this foundation, to me. Patricia stood up. You can't speak about my brother that way. I can speak about him however I want. He's my ex-husband, and unlike you, I don't worship his memory. He built this foundation. He inherited this foundation from my father, and he nearly destroyed it with his ego. Victoria planted her hands on the desk. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to support Daniel Reyes, fully, publicly. You're going to approve his program exactly as he designed it without modifications or interference. And if I don't, then I'll finally do what I should have done 6 years ago. Victoria's voice dropped. I'll fire you, and I'll make sure every foundation in this city knows exactly why. Patricia's face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. The silence stretched between them. Two women who had been enemies for years finally facing each other without pretense. Patricia broke first. Fine. The janitor gets his program. The program director gets his program. Whatever. Patricia sat down heavily. But when it fails, and it will fail, don't say I didn't warn you. It won't fail. How can you be so sure? Victoria thought about Daniel, about his patience, his compassion, the way he'd knelt on that ballroom floor without hesitation, without caring what anyone thought. Because he's the real thing. And in this world of fakes and frauds, that's worth more than any degree. She walked out without looking back. Daniel found her in the hallway 20 minutes later. She was sitting on a bench staring at nothing, her hands trembling. Victoria. She looked up. Her eyes were red. Hey, I was looking for you. Patricia just called, said the program is approved. Full funding. No modifications. Daniel sat beside her. What did you say to her? The truth. Which truth? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I told her about Richard. Your ex-husband. Lily's father. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. I've never talked about him. Not to anyone. Not even my therapist knows the whole story. You don't have to. He called her defective. The word came out broken. Our daughter, 4 years old, struggling to communicate, struggling to connect, struggling in ways neither of us understood. And he looked at me and said he couldn't be associated with a defective child. Daniel's chest tightened with rage he couldn't express. I begged him to stay, to try, to give her a chance. Victoria laughed bitterly. I actually begged, on my knees, crying, promising I would fix her, make her normal, do whatever it took. And he just walked out, packed a bag and left, filed for divorce the next week. Victoria, for 4 years I blamed myself, thought I'd done something wrong during pregnancy, eaten the wrong foods, taken the wrong vitamins. I spent thousands of hours researching causes, looking for someone to blame. It wasn't your fault. I know that now. But back then, she shook her head. Back then I would have done anything to make her normal. I put her through therapy after therapy, program after program. Some of them hurt her. Some of them traumatized her. But I kept pushing because I was so desperate to prove Richard wrong. When did you stop? I didn't. Not really. Not until... She looked at him. Not until you. Me. That night at the gala. When you sat on the floor and matched her rhythm. When you didn't try to fix her, or change her, or make her into something else. Tears spilled down Victoria's cheeks. You just accepted her, exactly as she was, and she responded in ways I'd never seen. Daniel didn't know what to say, so he did the only thing that felt right. He took her hand. Victoria looked down at their intertwined fingers, his calloused, hers soft. 2 completely different lives touching in this quiet hallway. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of hoping, of believing things might actually get better. She squeezed his hand. Every time I've hoped before, something has gone wrong. Richard leaving, Lily's setbacks, the constant battles with the board. I've learned to expect disappointment. I know that feeling. How do you keep going after everything you've lost? Daniel thought about Sarah, about the accident, about the months of rehabilitation and the years of struggle. I don't have a choice. Ethan needs me. If I give up, he has no one. But it's more than that. You don't just survive, you actually live. You find joy. You help people. How? Honestly. Daniel smiled sadly. I fake it. Every single day. I wake up exhausted and scared and overwhelmed, and I pretend I'm not. For Ethan. For myself. Until eventually, sometimes the pretending becomes real. That sounds exhausting. It is. But it's also the only way I know. He paused. Can I tell you something? Please. The night of the gala, when I saw Lily, I didn't think about helping a CEO's daughter. I didn't think about how it might change my life. I just saw a kid in pain and I moved. Instinct. More than that. Connection. For 3 minutes I wasn't a disabled janitor or a struggling single dad or any of the labels the world puts on me. I was just one person reaching out to another. And that feeling. He struggled for words. That's why I keep going. Those moments. When everything else falls away and all that matters is human connection. Victoria wiped her eyes. I want more moments like that. So do I. They sat together in silence. 2 broken people finding something unexpected in each other. Not romance, not yet. Maybe not ever. But something. Something real. Something that might just be enough. The first Quiet Bridges session happened on a Tuesday. Daniel stood at the front of the room, 20 parents staring back at him with expressions ranging from desperate hope to deep skepticism. I'm not a therapist. His voice was steady, despite the terror screaming through his nerves. I'm not a doctor or a specialist or anyone with impressive letters after my name. I'm just a dad. A dad who learned the hard way how to connect with his son. A woman in the front row raised her hand. Then why should we listen to you? Because I've been where you are, exactly where you are. Daniel moved closer to her. You're exhausted. You've tried everything. You've spent money you don't have on programs that promised results and delivered nothing. You've cried alone at night wondering what you did wrong. You've Googled, why won't my child look at me, at 3 in the morning? Am I close? The woman's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. I know because I did all of that, for years, and nothing worked until I stopped trying to change my son and started trying to understand him. He demonstrated the techniques. Mirroring, visual grounding, rhythm matching. Things that looked simple but required patience most people had never developed. The hardest part isn't learning these methods, Daniel explained. The hardest part is accepting that your child doesn't need to be fixed. They need to be met where they are. A father in the back stood up. That sounds nice, but my son can't function in the real world. He can't go to school. He can't make friends. He can't yet. Daniel cut him off gently. My son couldn't either. For 2 years he didn't speak a single word. Now he's in a mainstream classroom, not because I cured him, because I learned his language. What language? Whatever language he was speaking. For Ethan, it was movement, patterns, rhythms that made sense when words didn't. For your son, it might be something different. The point is to pay attention, to watch, to listen with more than your ears. The session lasted 2 hours. By the end, Daniel was drained, but something had shifted in the room. Parents who had walked in hopeless left with something new in their eyes. Not answers, not solutions, just hope. Victoria watched from the back. When the last parent left, she approached. That was incredible. That was terrifying. You didn't look terrified. I've had practice hiding it. Daniel gathered his materials. How did it look, honestly? Honestly, like something this world desperately needs. Victoria touched his arm. You're going to help so many people, Daniel. This is just the beginning. The beginning of what? Before she could answer, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face went white. What is it? Charles Whitmore. Her voice was barely audible. He's called another emergency board meeting. Another one. I thought you stopped him. I bought time. I didn't win. She answered the phone, listened for 30 seconds, then hung up without a word. Victoria. He's found something. Her hands were shaking. He says he has evidence of financial impropriety, evidence that will force my immediate resignation. That's impossible. You haven't done anything. I know I haven't, which means he's manufactured something. Victoria grabbed her bag. I have to go. I'm coming with you. Daniel, you don't have to. I'm coming. Something in his voice made her stop arguing. They walked out together. The board meeting was chaos. Charles Whitmore stood at the head of the table, a thick folder in his hands, triumph radiating from every pore. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to show you will shock and disturb you. He slid documents across the table. Evidence of embezzlement. Over $3 million funneled from foundation accounts into private holdings. Victoria grabbed a document, scanned it. Her face went gray. These are forgeries. Are they? Whitmore smiled. The accounts are in your name. The signatures match yours. The transfers occurred over the past 18 months. I never authorized these transfers. The evidence suggests otherwise. Whitmore turned to the board. I move for immediate suspension of Victoria Harrison pending a full investigation. You set this up. Victoria's voice shook with rage. You fabricated all of this. Paranoid accusations won't help you now. Daniel watched from the corner, his fists clenched. He wanted to speak to defend her, but he was nobody here. A guest. A janitor. His voice meant nothing. Margaret Chen held up her hand. Before we vote, I want to hear from Victoria, properly. What's there to hear? Whitmore demanded. The evidence can be examined by our forensic accountants. Until then, I want context. Margaret turned to Victoria. Explain. Victoria took a breath. 18 months ago, Richard Harrison, my ex-husband, attempted a hostile takeover of this foundation. He wanted to liquidate our charitable programs and redirect funds to his pharmaceutical investments. I stopped him. It cost me my marriage, but I stopped him. Ancient history, Whitmore muttered. Not ancient. Ongoing. Victoria pointed at him. Charles has been working with Richard ever since. Secret meetings, private dinners. They've been planning to remove me for 3 years. Conspiracy theories. Then explain this. Victoria pulled out her own folder. Phone records, email chains, meeting schedules, all showing communication between Charles Whitmore and Richard Harrison dating back 36 months. Whitmore's face changed, just slightly, but Daniel saw it. Fear. Where did you get those? Whitmore demanded. From sources who are tired of watching you destroy this foundation. Victoria stood taller. You want a war, Charles? You've got one, but understand something. I've been fighting for Lily for 8 years. Fighting against doctors who wanted to institutionalize her. Fighting against a husband who abandoned her. Fighting against a world that sees her as less than human. You think I'm afraid of you? I think you're desperate. I'm a mother. Desperate is my default setting. Victoria turned to the board. Vote however you want. But know this, if you remove me today, you're not protecting the foundation. You're handing it to a man who will gut everything we've built. Every program, every initiative, every person we've helped. The room fell silent. Margaret Chen spoke first. I move to table both matters. The financial allegations and the conspiracy evidence need proper investigation before any action is taken. Seconded. Another board member added. Whitmore's face contorted. You can't. All in favor. 9 hands went up. Whitmore slammed his folder on the table. This isn't over. No, Victoria agreed. It isn't. He stormed out, and the room exhaled. Victoria's legs gave out. She caught herself on the table, her whole body trembling. Daniel was there in seconds. I've got you. I can't keep doing this. Her voice broke. Every day another battle, another attack. I'm so tired, Daniel. So tired. I know. How do you do it? How do you keep fighting when everything is stacked against you? Daniel thought about all the nights he'd wanted to give up, all the mornings he'd forced himself out of bed, all the moments when the weight of everything nearly crushed him. You don't fight alone. He helped her to a chair. You find people who believe in you, and you let them carry some of the weight. I don't know how to do that. Neither did I, until Ethan taught me. Daniel knelt beside her. You've been carrying everything by yourself for 8 years. Lily, the foundation, the battles with your ex. No one can do that alone, not even you. But if I let people in, they might hurt you. Yeah, they might. Daniel took her hand. But they might also save you. The question is whether you're willing to take that risk. Victoria looked at him, really looked, at the scars on his hands, the lines on his face, the quiet strength that never wavered. I don't know if I can. You don't have to know. You just have to try. Daniel smiled. One day at a time. That's how we survive. That's how we grow. Victoria squeezed his hand. One day at a time. One day at a time. They sat together as the board members filed out. 2 people who had started as strangers from different worlds. Finding common ground, finding each other, and maybe, just maybe, finding hope. That night, Lily had a nightmare. She woke up screaming, the same terror from the gala flooding back in waves. Victoria rushed to her room, but nothing she did helped. The rocking, the hand movements, everything Daniel had taught her. Nothing worked. In desperation, she called him. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Daniel, it's 2 in the morning. 20 minutes. He arrived in 15, Ethan asleep in the back seat. Lily was still crying when he walked in. Victoria looked destroyed. I tried everything. Everything you taught me. She won't. It's okay. Daniel moved past her, slowly, calmly. Sometimes the techniques don't work. Sometimes we just have to be present. He sat on the floor outside Lily's room, not entering, not approaching, just there. Lily, his voice was soft. It's Daniel, the dancing man. I'm here. The crying paused, just for a moment. Eleanor's scared, came the small voice. The bad dream got her. I'm sorry Eleanor's scared. Bad dreams are really hard. She wants to go away. Where does she want to go? Somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. Daniel thought for a moment. Can I tell you a secret about somewhere safe? Silence. Then, okay. When I get scared, I close my eyes and I think about my favorite place. A place where nothing bad can happen. Do you have a place like that? The garden, with Mommy. That sounds like a perfect place. Can you go there now? In your head? More silence. Then the crying softened. Eleanor's going to the garden. Good. You can go with her. It's safe there. Victoria watched tears streaming down her face as her daughter's sobs gradually faded, as the terror released its grip. 20 minutes later, Lily was asleep again. Daniel stood up slowly, his prosthetic legs stiff from sitting on the hard floor. Victoria grabbed him, held him, clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting. Thank you. Her voice was muffled against his chest. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Daniel held her back, let her cry, let her shake. In the other room, Ethan had woken up and wandered in. He saw his father holding Victoria, saw Lily sleeping peacefully. He smiled, and went back to sleep on the couch, Eleanor the elephant tucked under his arm. Daniel didn't leave that night. He stayed on the couch, Victoria eventually falling asleep in the chair across from him. 2 exhausted parents, 2 scared children. One family forming in the spaces between heartbeats. Outside, the city slept. Inside, something new was beginning. Something none of them had expected. Something that would change everything. Morning came too fast. Daniel woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of children laughing. His neck ached from sleeping at an awkward angle on Victoria's couch. His prosthetic leg had slipped off during the night, and for a moment he felt the familiar phantom pain of something that wasn't there anymore. Dad, you're awake. Ethan appeared in the doorway, Lily right behind him. They were both wearing matching pajamas that Daniel had never seen before. Where did you get those? Lily's mom gave them to me. She said I could keep them. They have elephants on them. See? Daniel saw. He also saw something else. His son, who usually struggled with new environments and unfamiliar situations, completely at ease in this penthouse that cost more than Daniel would earn in a lifetime. You slept okay, buddy? Better than okay. Lily showed me her weighted blanket. It's amazing. Can we get one? We'll see. Victoria appeared behind the children holding 2 cups of coffee. She looked exhausted, but somehow lighter than Daniel had ever seen her. Good morning. Morning. Daniel accepted the coffee. Their fingers touched. Neither pulled away. I should probably go. Work. It's Sunday. Right. He'd lost track. Still, I should stay. Victoria's voice was soft but certain. Please, stay for breakfast. Daniel looked at Ethan, at Lily, at this woman who had gone from stranger to something he couldn't name in just a few weeks. Okay. Okay. Breakfast was chaos. Lily insisted on showing Ethan her entire collection of communication cards while eating. Ethan wanted to demonstrate his new hand signals to Victoria. Food got spilled. Milk got knocked over. Nobody cared. This is the happiest I've seen her in months, Victoria whispered to Daniel as they watched the children argue about whether Eleanor the elephant would prefer pancakes or waffles. Same with Ethan. He doesn't usually connect with other kids like this. Because they speak the same language. Yeah. Daniel smiled. They do. Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face changed. Problem? My lawyer. The investigation into Charles's allegations. She stood up. I need to take this. She walked into the other room. Daniel could hear her voice muffled, but tense. The conversation lasted 10 minutes. When she came back, she looked like she'd aged a year. What happened? The forensic accountants found something. Victoria's voice was flat. The money transfers, they're real. $3 million moved from foundation accounts to offshore holdings. But you said you didn't. I didn't. But someone used my access credentials, someone who knew my passwords, my security protocols. She sat down heavily. Someone inside. Patricia? That's what I thought. But she doesn't have access to financial systems. Never did. Victoria shook her head. This was someone closer, someone I trusted. Who? I don't know, but whoever it is, they've been planning this for months, maybe years. She looked at Daniel. Charles has the evidence he needs now, real evidence. The board meeting tomorrow, I don't know if I can survive it. There has to be a way to prove you didn't do this. How? The accounts are in my name. The credentials are mine. Every digital trail leads back to me. Victoria's voice cracked. I've been set up, Daniel. Perfectly. Completely. And I don't know how to fight it. Lily appeared beside her mother. Mommy, why are you crying? Victoria wiped her eyes quickly. I'm okay, sweetheart. Just grown-up stuff. Grown-up stuff is stupid. Sometimes it really is. Lily climbed into her mother's lap. Eleanor says it'll be okay. Eleanor's always right. Victoria held her daughter tight. I hope so, baby. I really hope so. Daniel watched them, his mind racing. There had to be something. Some way to find the truth. Some angle everyone was missing. Victoria. Yeah. The credentials. Who else knows your passwords? No one. I change them every month. I don't write them down. I don't share them with anyone. Not even your assistant. Not even... Victoria stopped. Her face went pale. Oh God. What? Marcus, my executive assistant. She stood up so fast Lily almost fell. He's been with me for 7 years, since before Lily was born. He handles my schedule, my correspondence, your computer access. Sometimes, when I'm traveling, when I need something done remotely. Victoria's hands were shaking. He's the only person who's ever had my passwords. The only one. And he's still working for you. As far as I know, but... She grabbed her phone, dialed, waited. Voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. He's not answering. Maybe he's just busy. It's Sunday morning. He always answers on Sunday morning. Always. Victoria's voice rose with each word. He's been with me for 7 years. He's seen everything. Every document. Every meeting. Every conversation with the board. You think he's working with Charles? I think someone's been feeding information to the other side for months. Every move I make they counter. Every strategy I develop they anticipate. Victoria sank back into the chair. Marcus has access to everything. If he wanted to destroy me, he could. But why 7 years of loyalty and now money, revenge, blackmail? I don't know. She looked at Daniel with something like despair. I trusted him. I trusted him with my daughter's medical information, with our security codes, with every secret I have. Daniel thought about betrayal, about the people who had promised to stay and didn't, about Sarah's family who had disappeared after the accident, blaming him for her death. About friends who stopped calling when Ethan's diagnosis became inconvenient. Trust is a weapon, he said quietly. The people we let closest can hurt us the most. I should have known, should have seen the signs. You're not psychic, Victoria. You're human. Human doesn't feel like enough right now. Daniel crossed the room, knelt beside her chair, took her hands in his. Listen to me. Whatever happens tomorrow, you're not alone. You have Margaret Chen. You have the truth. You have me. The truth hasn't helped so far. Then we find new truth. We dig deeper. We find Marcus, and we get answers. How? I don't know yet. But we figure it out. Together. He squeezed her hands. You've been fighting alone for 8 years. That ends today. Victoria looked at him. At this man who had nothing. No money, no power, no influence, and yet offered more than anyone else ever had. Why? She whispered. Why do you care so much? Because you're worth caring about. Because Lily needs her mother. Because the world is dark enough without people like Charles Whitmore winning. That's not enough reason to risk everything. It's enough for me. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two people on the edge of something neither fully understood. Then Ethan's voice broke through. Dad, Lily says there's a man at the door. Daniel and Victoria exchanged looks. She wasn't expecting anyone. Stay here, she said. She walked to the foyer, checked the security camera, and froze. What is it? Richard. The name came out like a curse. My ex-husband. Daniel felt the room shift. I thought he walked away 8 years ago. He did. He hasn't contacted us once. Not for Lily's birthday. Not for holidays. Nothing. Victoria's hands clenched into fists. Why now? The doorbell rang again. Don't answer it. I have to. If I don't, he'll make a scene. Call security. File complaints. Victoria took a breath. He's a lawyer. He knows how to cause problems. Then I'm staying. Daniel. I'm staying. She didn't argue. Victoria opened the door. Richard Harrison was exactly what Daniel expected. Tall, handsome in a cold, preserved way. Expensive suit even on a Sunday. Eyes that assessed and calculated with every glance. Victoria. His voice was smooth. Practiced. You look well. Richard? What do you want? Can't a father visit his daughter? You haven't been a father in 8 years. Things change. Richard's eyes slid past Victoria to the interior. Found Lily. Found Ethan. Found Daniel. You have guests. That's none of your business. Everything about Lily is my business. Legally. Victoria's body went rigid. You signed away your parental rights. Did I? Richard smiled. Cold. Reptilian. Interesting. That's not what my lawyers say. I have the documents. Documents can be challenged, especially when the custodial parent demonstrates instability. Richard's eyes gleamed. I've seen the videos, Victoria. The gala. Our daughter having a public breakdown. And you unable to do anything about it. She wasn't having a breakdown. She was overwhelmed. Semantics. The courts won't see it that way. Richard stepped closer. I'm going to file for custody, Victoria. Joint custody at first. Then once I demonstrate your unfitness, full custody. You're insane. You abandoned her. I took a step back for her well-being. That's the narrative my attorneys will present. Richard's voice hardened. You've been so focused on fighting Charles and protecting your foundation that you forgot to protect what really matters. Your daughter. Daniel moved forward without thinking. You should leave. Good. Richard turned, looked at him, through him. And you are someone who won't stand here while you threaten her. Ah, the janitor. Richard's lip curled. I've heard about you. The viral video hero. Quite a story. Quite a narrative. I don't care about narratives. Everyone cares about narratives. That's how the world works. Richard turned back to Victoria. Think about what I'm offering. Joint custody. Shared time with our daughter. A chance for her to know her father. She doesn't need to know a father who called her defective. Something flickered in Richard's eyes, just for a moment. I never said that. Yes, you did. I remember every word. Memory is unreliable, especially for someone under as much stress as you. Get out. Think about my offer, Victoria, because the alternative is a very public, very expensive legal battle. Richard smiled again. And right now, with the embezzlement investigation and your position on the board hanging by a thread, can you really afford another war? He walked away without waiting for an answer. Victoria slammed the door, leaned against it. Her whole body was shaking. Mommy! Lily stood in the hallway. Eleanor clutched to her chest, eyes wide with fear. Who was that man? Victoria knelt down, pulled her daughter close. Nobody, sweetheart. Nobody important. He looked mean. He is mean, but he can't hurt us. I won't let him. Promise. Victoria's voice broke. I promise. Daniel watched them, felt the weight of everything pressing down. The investigation. Charles Whitmore. Now Richard Harrison. Enemies everywhere, closing in from all sides. And in the middle of it all, a mother and daughter clinging to each other like survivors of a shipwreck. He knelt beside them. Ethan joined without being asked. 4 people forming a circle on the floor of a penthouse that should have felt like a fortress, but now felt like a cage. We're going to get through this, Daniel said. All of us, together. Victoria looked at him. How can you be so sure? I'm not, he admitted. But I'm here anyway. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. They stayed there until Lily's breathing steadied, until the terror faded into something manageable. Then they stood up and began to fight. The next 72 hours were a blur. Daniel worked with Victoria's legal team digging through financial records looking for any trace of Marcus or his activities. Victoria battled on the board front, rallying allies, building defenses against Charles's inevitable attack. Margaret Chen provided crucial support. I've seen Charles's type before, she told them. All bluster and strategy, but weak when challenged directly. Push back hard enough and he'll crack. And Richard is different. Richard is patient. He'll wait years for the right moment to strike. Margaret's face darkened. You need to prepare for a long fight, Victoria. Not just weeks. Years. I don't have years. I don't even have days. Then make the days count. The breakthrough came on Wednesday. Daniel was reviewing email archives when he found it. A deleted message recovered from backup servers. From Marcus to an encrypted address. She suspects nothing. The final transfer goes through Friday. After that, the trail will lead directly to her door. The timestamp was 3 weeks before the gala. Victoria! Daniel's shout brought her running. Look at this. She read the email. Read it again. Her hands trembled. He planned this. Months ago. Before you even hired me. Before any of this started. Can we prove this is Marcus? The email came from his work account. It's logged in the system. But he could claim he was hacked. His credentials were stolen. He could, but Daniel scrolled down. There's more. Dozens of emails, instructions, plans, a detailed timeline for destroying Victoria Harrison. And at the end, the name of the person Marcus was working for. Richard Harrison. Victoria sat down hard. My ex-husband. All of this, the embezzlement, Charles's attacks, the custody threat, it's all connected. He's been planning this since the divorce. 8 years. Victoria's voice was hollow. 8 years of playing the victim. The abandoned father, the misunderstood husband. And all along he was waiting, building, preparing. Why, what does he want? The foundation. My father built it. Richard always believed it should have been his. Victoria laughed bitterly. He doesn't care about Lily. He never did. She's just leverage. A way to force me out. We have proof now. We can take this to the board. And say what? That my ex-husband orchestrated a years-long conspiracy that my own assistant betrayed me. Victoria shook her head. Without Marcus's testimony, these emails are just pieces of a puzzle. Charles will claim they're fabricated. Richard will deny everything. Then we find Marcus. How? He's disappeared. Changed his phone. Cleared his apartment. He's gone. Daniel thought about all the times he'd felt trapped. All the moments when every exit was blocked. The accident. The hospital. The years of struggling alone. There's always a way, he said. We just haven't found it yet. What if there isn't? What if Richard wins? Then we fight differently, harder, longer. Daniel took her hands. You've survived worse than this. You've raised Lily alone. You've built an empire. You've faced down Charles Whitmore without flinching. Don't give up now. I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic. Realistic is for people without hope. We have hope. Based on what? Based on the fact that we're still standing. That Lily and Ethan are in the next room building something with blocks and laughing. That Margaret Chen believes in you. That I believe in you. Victoria's eyes glistened. You barely know me. I know enough. What do you know? I know you love your daughter more than anything. I know you've sacrificed everything to protect her. I know you've spent 8 years carrying a weight that would have crushed most people. Daniel paused. And I know that when I needed help, when Ethan and I had nothing, you saw me. Not the janitor, not the disability, me. Anyone would have... No, they wouldn't. Daniel's voice was firm. I've been invisible my entire life, Victoria. To employers, to neighbors, to the parents at Ethan's school who cross the street when they see us coming. You're the first person in 5 years who looked at me and saw something worth believing in. Victoria was crying now, silently, tears tracking down her cheeks. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I. What if I lose everything? You won't lose what matters. You have Lily. You have friends who care about you. You have me. For how long? The question hung between them, heavy, uncertain. Daniel answered it the only way he knew how. He kissed her, soft, gentle, a question more than a statement. Victoria froze, then responded. Her hand found his face, his arms wrapped around her. For one moment, there were no enemies, no investigations, no battles to fight. Just two broken people finding each other in the darkness. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. I didn't plan that, Daniel said. Neither did I. Is it okay? Victoria laughed, broken and beautiful. It's more than okay. What happens now? I don't know. She touched his face. But for the first time in 8 years, I don't feel alone. You're not. Never again. The board meeting was Friday. Victoria walked in with Daniel beside her. Margaret Chen flanked her other side. Lily and Ethan waited with a trusted nanny in Victoria's office. Charles Whitmore stood at the head of the table, triumph radiating from every pore. Victoria, I'm surprised you came. Why? It's my foundation. Not for much longer. He distributed documents around the table. Forensic analysis confirms the embezzlement, $3 million, traced directly to accounts under Victoria's control. Accounts accessed using stolen credentials. So you claim, but without proof. I have proof. Victoria set down her own folder. Recovered emails from my executive assistant Marcus Webb detailing the entire conspiracy, including the name of his employer. Charles's smile flickered. Anyone can fabricate emails. These are authenticated by Harrison Foundation's own IT department, time-stamped, Server logged, completely legitimate. And who was this mysterious employer? Victoria paused. Let the silence build. Richard Harrison, my ex-husband. Gasps around the table. Charles's face went pale. That's absurd. Richard hasn't been involved with this foundation for 8 years, during which he's been planning his return. Through you, Charles. Victoria turned to the board. Phone records show 47 calls between Charles Whitmore and Richard Harrison in the past 6 months. Meeting schedules put them together at least 12 times. And she pulled out one final document. Bank transfers show $500,000, moving from Richard's accounts to a shell company controlled by Charles. This is a setup. This is the truth. Victoria's voice rang through the room. You've been working with my ex-husband to destroy me, to take this foundation and sell it to the highest bidder. Everything. The accusations, the leaked information, the manufactured evidence. All of it orchestrated by 2 men who care more about money and revenge than the thousands of people this foundation serves. Margaret Chen stood. I move for an immediate investigation into Charles Whitmore's activities. All board privileges suspended pending results. Seconded. 3 voices said at once. Charles looked around the room, saw the tide turning, saw his careful plans crumbling. You have no right. I have every right. Victoria stepped closer. You tried to destroy me. You used my daughter's struggles against me. You partnered with a man who abandoned his own child because she wasn't perfect enough for him. Victoria. I'm not finished. Her voice was ice. 8 years ago, I lost everything I thought mattered. My marriage, my faith in people, my belief that the world could be fair. But I didn't give up. I fought. For Lily. For this foundation. For every family we've ever helped. She pointed at Charles. You represent everything wrong with this world. The greed, the cruelty, the willingness to destroy others for profit. But here's what you don't understand. People like me don't break. We bend. We adapt. We survive. And when we finally strike back, we don't miss. Charles's face contorted with rage. This isn't over. Yes. It is. Victoria turned to the board. All in favor of suspending Charles Whitmore's board privileges. Every hand went up. Charles stared at the unanimous vote, at the faces of colleagues who had supported him for years now turning away. You'll regret this, he hissed. All of you. The only thing I regret, Victoria replied, is not doing this sooner. He stormed out. The door slammed. And Victoria Harrison, for the first time in 8 years, felt truly free. Daniel was waiting outside. How did it go? We won. Victoria's voice trembled. We actually won. The investigation. Moving forward. Charles is finished. Richard. She paused. Richard will be harder. But without Charles's support, his custody case falls apart. So it's over. This battle is over. The war continues. Victoria smiled. Tired. Real. But for today, we won. Daniel pulled her into his arms, held her tight. I'm proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could. You just didn't have to. Victoria pulled back, looked at him with something new in her eyes, something warm and terrifying and wonderful. I love you. The words hung between them, unexpected, undeniable. Daniel's heart stopped, started, stopped again. Victoria, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. She touched his face. Whatever happens next, I needed you to know. Daniel thought about Sarah, about the love he'd thought was dead, about the years of being alone, convinced he'd never feel this way again. I love you too. Victoria's breath caught. You do. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. But yeah, he smiled. I love you too. They kissed again. Not soft this time. Not questioning. Certain. When they pulled apart, two children were watching from the doorway. Does this mean we're a family now? Ethan asked. Lily clutched Eleanor tight. Please say yes. Daniel looked at Victoria. Victoria looked at Daniel. What do you think? She asked. I think. Daniel knelt down, opened his arms. Both children ran to him. I think we already are. The four of them held each other in that hallway. Not a traditional family. Not what any of them had planned. But perfect. Absolutely perfect. 6 months changed everything. Quiet Bridges expanded to 7 cities. 3,000 families enrolled. Daniel's face appeared on magazine covers he'd never heard of his story, shared millions of times across the internet. But the real change happened at home. Dad, we're going to be late. Ethan stood in the doorway of their new apartment, the one Victoria had insisted they move into just 2 floors below the penthouse, wearing his best shirt and bouncing with nervous energy. The conference doesn't start for 3 hours. But Lily wants to practice the dance one more time. She says Eleanor is nervous. Eleanor is always nervous. That's why we need to practice. Daniel smiled. 6 months ago, his son had struggled to connect with anyone. Now he was advocating for a stuffed elephant's emotional well-being. Progress came in strange forms. Okay, buddy, let's go practice. The National Autism Awareness Conference was the biggest event of its kind. 2,000 attendees, parents, educators, therapists, researchers, all gathered to learn, share, and support each other. And Daniel was the keynote speaker. You're going to be amazing. Victoria straightened his tie, her hands lingering on his chest. You know that, right? I know I'm terrified. Same thing according to you. When did I say that? First Quiet Bridges session. You told the parents that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite the fear. I hate when you quote me back to myself. I love when I quote you back to yourself. She kissed him softly. You've got this. We've got this. Lily appeared, dragging Ethan behind her. Both children wore matching outfits, blue shirts with small elephant patterns that Lily had designed herself. We're ready, Lily announced. Eleanor too. How's Eleanor feeling? Scared, but brave scared, like Daddy Daniel. Daddy Daniel. She'd started calling him that 3 months ago, the first time Daniel had cried for 20 minutes. He still got emotional every time. Then we're all ready, he said. Let's go change some lives. The conference center was overwhelming. 2,000 people, bright lights, constant noise, the kind of environment that would have destroyed both children a year ago. But Lily and Ethan walked through it together, hands clasped, noise-canceling headphones firmly in place. They'd developed a system, a squeeze pattern that communicated everything from "I'm okay" to "I need a break" to "This is actually fun." Daniel watched them navigate the crowd, and his heart swelled with pride. Mr. Reyes. He turned. A woman approached, mid-40s, tired eyes, hopeful smile. I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say... Her voice cracked. My son is 12, nonverbal. We tried everything. Every program, every therapy, every specialist who promised miracles. Nothing worked. I'm sorry. Don't be. Because 3 months ago I found your videos online. The mirroring technique. The rhythm matching. I started trying it with Marcus, that's my son, and... She wiped her eyes. He looked at me. Really looked at me. For the first time in 8 years. Daniel felt the familiar tightness in his chest. The one that came every time a parent shared their story. That's incredible. It's because of you. Because you didn't give up on your son. Because you shared what you learned. She grabbed his hand. Thank you. Thank you for giving us hope. She walked away before he could respond. Victoria appeared beside him. That's the 7th parent who's approached you since we got here. I know. How are you handling it? Terrified, overwhelmed, grateful. He looked at her. Is this what it feels like, making a difference? Yeah, it is. She squeezed his arm. And you deserve every moment of it. The keynote was scheduled for 2 o'clock. At 1:45, Daniel's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then something made him answer. Mr. Reyes. Speaking. This is Detective Morrison, Seattle PD. We've located Marcus Webb. Daniel's blood went cold. Marcus. Victoria's former assistant. The man who'd helped orchestrate everything. Where? A motel outside Portland. He's been in hiding for 6 months, but his money ran out. He reached out to us this morning, says he wants to make a deal. A deal. Full testimony against Richard Harrison in exchange for reduced charges. The detective paused. He's got documentation, Mr. Reyes. Everything. Emails, recordings, financial trails. Enough to put Harrison away for a very long time. Daniel's legs nearly gave out. Victoria needs to hear this. We've already contacted her attorneys, but I wanted to tell you personally. After everything you've been through, I thought you deserved to know first. Thank you. I thank you. He hung up. Stood there processing. 6 months of waiting. 6 months of Richard's lawyers filing motions and making threats. 6 months of wondering when the next attack would come. And now it was over. Really, truly over. Victoria was across the room talking to Margaret Chen. Daniel caught her eye. She saw something in his face and excused herself immediately. What happened? They found Marcus. Victoria went pale. Where is he? He's cooperating. Full testimony against Richard. Documentation of everything. Victoria stared at him. Everything. Everything. Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It's over. It's over. She grabbed him, held him so tight he could barely breathe. 8 years, she whispered. 8 years of fighting. And it's finally over. You won, Victoria. You won. We won. All of us. Lily appeared beside them, Ethan close behind. Mommy, why are you crying? Victoria knelt down, pulled her daughter into the embrace. Happy tears, sweetheart. The happiest tears. Is it the bad man, the one from before? He can't hurt us anymore, ever. Lily processed this, nodded seriously. Good. Eleanor was worried. Tell Eleanor she can stop worrying now. I will. She'll be very relieved. Ethan tugged Daniel's sleeve. Dad? You're supposed to give your speech in 10 minutes. Daniel looked at the stage, at the 2,000 people waiting to hear him speak. Yeah, I am. Are you still scared? Terrified? But brave scared. Daniel smiled. The bravest scared I've ever been. The auditorium fell silent as Daniel took the stage. 2,000 faces looked up at him. Parents who'd fought the same battles. Educators searching for better tools. Therapists wanting to understand. Researchers looking for real-world insights. Daniel gripped the podium. His prosthetic leg ached. His hands trembled. Every instinct screamed at him to run. Instead, he spoke. 1 year ago, I was a janitor. The words came out steady, clear. I cleaned floors at the Harrison Foundation, night shift, minimum wage, invisible to everyone who walked past me. That was my life. That was all I thought I'd ever be. He paused, let the silence build. I was wrong. He told them about Ethan, about Sarah's death, about the years of isolation and struggle, about learning to communicate in a language the world didn't recognize. Everyone told me my son was broken. Doctors, teachers, family members who should have known better. They said he needed to be fixed, normalized. made acceptable to a society that had no patience for difference. His voice hardened. They were wrong too. He told them about the gala, about Lily, about seeing a child in crisis and responding with the only tools he had: empathy and experience. I didn't save Victoria Harrison's daughter that night. I connected with her. There's a difference. Saving implies that she needed rescuing from who she was. She didn't. She just needed someone willing to enter her world instead of forcing her into ours. Parents were crying now. Daniel saw them wiping their eyes, holding each other. Quiet Bridges isn't a cure. It's not a therapy or a treatment or a program that promises to make your children normal. It's a philosophy, a simple idea that took me 4 years to understand. He leaned into the microphone. Your children aren't broken. They're different. And different isn't less. Different is just different. Applause began building. Daniel raised his hand. I'm not finished. The room quieted. I know what you're feeling right now. The hope, the fear, the desperate need to believe that something, anything will work. He gripped the podium harder. I felt it too, for years. And I'm not going to stand here and promise you miracles. I can't. That would be a lie. He looked out at the crowd. What I can promise is this: your children see you fighting for them, even when they can't express it. Even when they pull away or melt down or do things that make you feel like you're failing. They see your love. They feel your dedication. And that matters more than any program or technique or strategy. His voice cracked. The night my wife died, I thought my life was over. I lost my leg. I lost my partner. I nearly lost my son. I spent months wanting to give up, wondering if Ethan would be better off without a broken father who couldn't figure out how to reach him. Daniel wiped his eyes. But I didn't give up. Not because I'm strong or brave or special. Because I didn't have a choice. Ethan needed me. And that need, the simple fact that another person depended on me, that's what kept me going. He looked to the side of the stage where Victoria stood with both children. Now I have a new family. A woman who saw me when the world didn't. A daughter who calls me Daddy Daniel and checks on Eleanor, the elephant's emotional state. A son who has grown from nonverbal to thriving because I learned to listen with more than my ears. He smiled through tears. This is what connection looks like. Not perfect, not easy, not what any of us planned, but real, beautiful, worth every struggle. He stepped back from the podium. Thank you for listening, thank you for fighting, and thank you for loving your children exactly as they are. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. Daniel couldn't hear it. His ears were ringing, his heart pounding. But he felt it, the energy of 2,000 people rising to their feet, crying and clapping and believing. Victoria reached him first, grabbed him, kissed him in front of everyone. That was incredible. I don't remember half of what I said. You said everything they needed to hear. Lily and Ethan joined them on stage. The applause intensified. Can we do the dance now? Lily asked. Daniel laughed. Right now? Everyone's watching. It's the perfect time. He looked at Victoria. She nodded. Okay, let's do it. The 4 of them moved to center stage. The auditorium fell silent, confused, but curious. Daniel began the pattern. Left step, right step, hand up, hand down. Ethan matched him, then Lily, then Victoria. 4 people moving together, their rhythm, their language, their family. The audience watched in stunned silence. Then slowly, people began to understand. Parents stood, started moving, matching the rhythm. Within minutes, 2,000 people were dancing together. Not a waltz or a formal dance. Just movement, connection, understanding. Daniel looked out at the sea of swaying bodies. Parents holding children. Educators embracing students. Strangers becoming community. This was what he'd built, not a program or a foundation or a viral video, a movement, a family that extended far beyond blood. After the conference, they went home, not to the penthouse, to Daniel's old apartment, the cramped two-bedroom that still smelled like old carpet and struggle. "Why are we here?" Lily asked. "Because this is where it started," Daniel said. "This is where I learned to reach Ethan, where I figured out the techniques that became quiet bridges. Before the conferences and the media and the foundation, it was just us, in this apartment, trying to survive." Victoria looked around, at the walls covered in Ethan's drawings, at the communication cards still taped to the refrigerator, at the worn couch where Daniel had spent countless sleepless nights. "This is where you became who you are. This is where I learned what mattered." Ethan walked to his old room. Lily followed. "It's small," Lily observed. "It was enough," Ethan replied. "My room is bigger." "I know, but this room was mine. Really mine." Ethan touched the wall where Daniel had painted a rainbow during one of his worst meltdowns. "Dad made that for me, when I was really scared. He said the colors would protect me." "Did they?" "I think so. Or maybe it was just knowing he cared enough to try." Lily considered this. "Daddy Daniel cares about me too." "I know. He cares about everyone." Ethan paused. "But he cares about you and me the most, after our moms." "That's a lot of caring." "He has a big heart, even though it's broken." "Broken hearts can still work. The broken ones work the hardest. Dad told me that." In the living room, Victoria was crying. "What's wrong?" Daniel asked. "Nothing. Everything." She laughed through her tears. "I spent years building a fortune, a company, a reputation. I thought those things defined success, defined worth. They don't. They never did." She looked at him. "This apartment, the struggle, the love you poured into these walls. That's what matters. That's what I want for Lily. Not wealth or privilege or protection from every hard thing. I want her to know that she's loved. Completely. Unconditionally. No matter what. She knows. Because of you. Because you showed me what it looks like to love without trying to change." Daniel pulled her close. "You were always capable of it. You just needed permission to believe." "Permission from who?" "From yourself. From someone who understood." He kissed her forehead. "From the universe." "I don't know. But you found it. That's what matters." The children returned. Ethan carrying a worn photo album, Lily clutching Eleanor. "Can we look at pictures?" Ethan asked. "Of course." They gathered on the old couch. 4 bodies squeezed into space designed for 2. Uncomfortable and perfect. Daniel opened the album. Photos of Ethan as a baby. Of Sarah alive and beautiful and completely unaware of what was coming. Of birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments that seemed impossibly precious now. "Is that your mommy?" Lily pointed to Sarah. "Yeah, that's her." "She's pretty." "She was." "Do you miss her?" "Every day." Lily thought about this. "Mommy says it's okay to miss people. That missing means you loved them." "Your mommy is very smart." "I know." Lily snuggled closer. "I'm glad you're here, Daddy Daniel. Eleanor is glad too." "I'm glad too, sweetheart. More than you know." 1 year later, the invitation arrived. Heavy paper, embossed lettering. The kind of formal announcement that used to make Daniel feel like an outsider. "What is it?" Ethan asked. "The governor wants to honor quiet bridges. Some kind of award ceremony at the state capitol." "Is that good?" "I think so." Victoria appeared reading over his shoulder. "The Governor's Excellence in Community Service Award. Daniel, this is huge." "It's just an award. It's recognition, validation. Everything you've built, the program, the families you've helped, the lives you've changed, the whole state is acknowledging it." Daniel stared at the invitation. Thought about everything that had led to this moment. The accident. The isolation. The night at the gala that changed everything. Ethan, Lily. Both children looked up. What do you think? Should we go? Will there be fancy food? Lily asked. Probably. Will it be loud? Maybe, but we can bring headphones. Lily consulted Eleanor. Eleanor says yes, but only if we can do the dance. In front of the governor. Why not everyone should know the dance? It helps people. Daniel laughed. She's got a point. Victoria smiled. She usually does. The ceremony was everything Daniel had feared, and nothing he expected. Cameras, politicians, speeches filled with words that sounded important but felt hollow. The kind of event designed for people who belonged in fancy rooms. Daniel had never been one of those people. But when they called his name, he walked to the podium anyway. Victoria beside him, Ethan and Lily close behind. The governor shook his hand. Mr. Reyes, on behalf of this state, thank you for your extraordinary contribution to families in need. Thank you, but I'm not the one who deserves this. The governor paused. I'm sorry. Daniel turned to face the audience. Hundreds of faces, media cameras, politicians and donors, and people who controlled budgets and policies. I'm just a dad who figured something out. The real heroes are the parents in the trenches every day. The ones who don't have viral videos or foundation support or magazine covers. The ones who struggle in silence because the world doesn't see them. He pulled Ethan and Lily forward. And these two. They taught me everything that matters. Not with words, though they have plenty of those now, but with patience. With trust. With the courage to be exactly who they are in a world that constantly tells them to be something else. He looked at Victoria. And this woman, who saw a janitor and believed he could change the world, who trusted her daughter with a stranger and ended up building a family. He turned back to the audience. This award belongs to all of them. To every parent who stayed up all night researching. To every child who's struggled to connect. To every person who's ever felt invisible and worthless and alone. His voice strengthened. You matter. Your struggles matter. Your love matters. And don't let anyone, not doctors, not experts, not anyone tell you otherwise. The applause was thunderous, but Daniel barely heard it. He was looking at his family, at Ethan's proud smile, at Lily's bouncing excitement, at Victoria's tear-streaked face. This was the moment, not the award, or the recognition, or the cameras. This. The family he'd found when he thought he had nothing left. The children who'd taught him that different wasn't broken. The woman who'd seen him when the world looked through him. Walking out of the ceremony, Lily tugged his sleeve. Daddy Daniel. Yeah, sweetheart. Are we done being famous now? I hope so. Why? Because I want to go home and do the dance. Just us, without all the people watching. Daniel knelt down, looked into her eyes. That sounds perfect. They drove home together. 4 people who'd started as strangers and become everything to each other. In the living room, they pushed the furniture aside, created space. Daniel started the pattern. Left step, right step, hand up, hand down. Ethan joined, then Lily, then Victoria. They moved together in the quiet of their home. No cameras, no audience, no world waiting to judge them. Just movement, just connection, just love. Dad, Ethan said softly, still dancing. Yeah, buddy. Thank you. For what? For not giving up. On me. On yourself. On any of it. Daniel's vision blurred with tears. Thank you for teaching me how to listen. I didn't teach you anything. You taught me everything. Victoria pulled them all closer. Lily giggled. Ethan smiled. And Daniel Reyes, former janitor, disabled single dad invisible man, who became a movement finally understood. The world didn't need to see you for you to matter. Your family just had to feel you there. And he was there. Present. Connected. Home. The dance continued long after the music would have stopped. Because some rhythms don't need sound. They just need hearts willing to move together. And in that moment, 4 hearts beat as one. Not broken, not fixed, just whole. Perfectly, beautifully, impossibly whole. Sometimes the smallest gesture creates the biggest change. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks sees more clearly than anyone else. And sometimes when you reach out your hand to someone who's struggling, you end up saving yourself. Daniel had started with nothing. He'd ended with everything that mattered. Not because the world finally saw him, but because he'd learned to see himself. That was the real miracle. That was the real victory. That was the story worth telling. The end.